Good day. We are Group 12 presenting on a comparative analysis of agency, stewardship, and stakeholder theories of governance. This group consists of Akil Taylor, Sila Samuel, Shalini Balgobin, Gian-Paul Baker, Mercedes Molest, and Nika Cruikshank. In this presentation, we aim to explain what is corporate governance, explore the importance of governance theories in an organizational context, and explore the theories of agency, stewardship, and stakeholder theory. We also intend to explore relevant cases of the theories in practice while focusing on their ethical implications. Compare the theories of corporate governance across multiple dimensions. Impart to the audience a functional understanding of the various governance theories and the necessary tools to perform their own critical analyses of governance structures that they encounter in the natural world.
So to begin, what is corporate governance? Corporate governance refers to the system of rules, practices, and processes by which a company is directed and controlled in a manner that enhances shareholder value and ensures accountability to stakeholders. Corporate governance is a complex concept that governs the relationships among stakeholders in an organization. The prominent theories include agency, stewardship, and stakeholder theories of governance. Our group will compare these theories through relevant examples to understand their principles, assumptions, and implications. For our presentation, we're going to explore 5 reasons why understanding governance theories in organizational context is important. Firstly, it allows for effective decision making. Governance theories provide frameworks for understanding the dynamics of decision making within organizations. By recognizing the principles and assumptions underlying different governance theories, leaders can make informed decisions that align with the organization's goals and values. It also helps in mitigating conflict and risk. Organizational governance often involves managing conflicts of interest and mitigating various risks. Governance theories offer insights into the sources of conflicts and risks within organizations and provide guidance on how to address them. It promotes accountability and transparency. Good governance is characterized by accountability, transparency, and ethical conduct. Governance theories provide principles and practices for promoting accountability and transparency within organizations. Governance theories also enhance organizational performance. Effective governance is closely linked to organizational performance and success. Governance theories offer insights into the factors that drive organizational performance and provide guidance on how to optimize them. It also helps the organization to adapt to changing environments. In today's dynamic and uncertain business environment, organizations face constant challenges and opportunities. Governance theories provide frameworks for understanding and adapting to these changes. We will begin by exploring the agency theory of governance. The concept of agency theory, which has its roots in the fields of economics and finance, revolves around the relationship between principals, that is, shareholders or owners, and agents, managers or executives within organizations. According to this theory, conflicts of interest can arise when principals delegate decision-making authority to agents, resulting in a misalignment of interest between the two parties. This misalignment can lead to agency conflicts and costs. In agency theory, the primary goal of the firm is to maximize shareholder wealth. Managers are considered self-interested and may prioritize their own interests over those of shareholders. Within this theory, mechanisms such as executive compensation, monitoring, and performance incentives are employed to mitigate agency costs and align the interests of principals and agents. Such mechanisms are employed as they attempt to encourage goal alignment by linking executive remuneration to company performance indicators that are in shareholder interests. In order to explore the importance and usefulness of the agency theory, we will look at a case involving the CL Financial Group. CL Financial Group, also known as CL Financial Limited, was a major financial conglomerate based in Trinidad and Tobago. It was founded by Lawrence Dupree in the 1970s and grew to become one of the largest and most influential companies in the Caribbean region. The group had diversified interests in various sectors including insurance, banking, real estate, energy, and manufacturing. CL Financial Group subsidiaries included CLICO, one of the largest insurance companies in the Caribbean, and CLICO Investment Bank, among others. CL Financial Group was known for its aggressive expansion strategies and its significant influence on the financial landscape of Trinidad and Tobago and other Caribbean nations. In the case, the financial group, a once highly regarded financial conglomerate in the Caribbean, collapsed in January 2009, prompting government intervention across the region. The collapse stemmed from excessive related party transactions, high-risk investments, and weak corporate governance practices. Governments intervened to protect depositors, policyholders, and creditors, but at a substantial cost to their finances. How is it relevant to agency theory? In the case of CL Financial Group, the executives, acting as agents, pursued risky investments and engaged in related party transactions that prioritized their own interests over those of the shareholders, who were the principals. This exemplifies the principal-agent problem inherent in agency theory, where conflicts of interest arise between the agent's pursuit of personal gain and the principal's desire for wealth maximization. The group's collapse underscores the importance of ethical decision-making and governance practices in the financial sector. Executives' pursuit of self-interest resulted in severe consequences for shareholders and other stakeholders, emphasizing the need for stronger regulatory oversight and ethical accountability. By integrating utilitarian ethics into the analysis, we recognize the ethical implications of prioritizing short-term gains over long-term stability and social welfare. This highlights the importance of ethical considerations in mitigating conflicts of interest and promoting responsible corporate behavior in line with agency theory principles.
Now we go on to stakeholder theory. Stakeholder theory represents an extension of the traditional corporate governance paradigm, which places stakeholders at the center of the firm's objectives and decision-making processes. Instead of focusing solely on stakeholder value maximization, stakeholder theory posits that corporations have a broader responsibility to consider the interests of all parties affected by their actions, including employees, customers, suppliers, communities, and the natural environment. Thus, stakeholder theory advocates for a more inclusive and sustainable approach to value creation that balances the diverse and often competing demands of stakeholders over the long term. Stakeholder theory implementation and limitations. Promoting inclusive governance structures, stakeholder engagements, and corporate social responsibility initiatives is crucial to meeting the diverse needs of stakeholders. It is important to consider the balance and need of every stakeholder group to ensure sustainable value creation in the long run. This approach involves using both financial and non-financial metrics to evaluate the overall organizational performance and stakeholder satisfaction. By adopting this approach, organizations can create a positive impact on society and the environment while also achieving their financial goals. It is difficult to effectively implement the theory, as it is difficult to measure and prioritize various stakeholder interests and balance competing interests. There exists a great likelihood of conflict between stakeholder groups. This theory is best implemented by a governance structure containing skilled and experienced members. Stakeholder theory example the mysterious oil spill off the coast of Tobago. Company overview. The incident revolves around a mysterious oil spill off the coast of Tobago, a Caribbean island known for its touristic beaches and vibrant marine ecosystems. The spill occurred due to an oil tanker running near the island's waters and overturning near the Cove Eco-Industrial Estate. The identity of the vessel remains unknown, adding to the complexity of the situation. Brief summary of events. The oil spill, which was discovered in early 2024, has had significant repercussions for Tobago and its surrounding waters. At least 15 kilometers of Tobago's southwestern coast have been affected, leading to concerns about environmental damage and the livelihood of local communities. Efforts to contain and clean up the spill have involved government agencies, volunteers, and international assistance, highlighting the urgency and scale of the response needed. Relevance to stakeholder theory. Stakeholder theory emphasizes the importance of considering the interests and rights of all stakeholders affected by corporate actions. In the case of the mysterious oil spill, stakeholders included not only the government and residents of Tobago, but also neighboring countries like Grenada and Venezuela, whose territorial waters were potentially impacted. Additionally, environmental groups, tourism operators, and marine life are stakeholders with a vested interest in the resolution of spill and its long-term consequences. Incorporation of ethics, right ethics. From a rights ethics perspective, stakeholders impacted by the oil spill have inherent rights that should be respected and protected. This includes the right to a clean and healthy environment, the right to a livelihood and economic well-being, and the right to transparency and accountability from responsible parties. Additionally, rights respected to passage in a country's waters at boundaries. The failure to identify the owner of the vessel and hold them accountable for the spill raises ethical questions about the protection of these rights and responsibilities of both national and international actors to address the situation promptly and effectively. Discussion. The mysterious oil spill off the coast of Tobago underscores the significance of stakeholder theory in addressing complex environmental disasters. By recognizing the diverse interests and rights of stakeholders involved, including affected communities, governments, and environmental groups, stakeholders can collaborate more effectively to mitigate the impact of such incidents and prevent future occurrences. The ethical dimensions of the situation highlight the need for greater transparency, accountability, and international cooperation in responding to environmental crises that transcend national borders. This case serves as a reminder of the interconnectedness of stakeholders in the Caribbean region and the importance of collective action in safeguarding the environment and promoting sustainable development.
Now, next we have the stewardship theory, which states that stewards are assumed to have intrinsic motivation and to align their interests with those of shareholders. Now, this theory contrasts with the aforementioned agency theory, as it proposes that managers act as stewards entrusted with the responsibility to maximize shareholder wealth. So, unlike agency theory, stewardship theory emphasizes trust, cooperation, and mutual goals between principals and agents. Moving along, these are some of the implementations and limitations of the agency theory. So firstly, the relational mechanisms such as trust, shared values, and ethical leadership are prioritized to foster cooperation and goal alignment. Next, it encourages managers to take calculated risks in pursuit of organizational objectives. And lastly, it relies heavily on trust, and it may not adequately address situations where individuals do not act in the best interest of the organization. Moving along, we have an example of the stewardship theory. The company that will be used for this example is Petrotrin. Now, Petrotrin is a company of Trinidad and Tobago, which was formerly known as Petroleum Company of Trinidad and Tobago Limited. It was a state-owned company, oil company in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, it was one of the largest oil producers in the Caribbean, operating both upstream and downstream activities. This included exploration, production, refining, and marketing of petroleum products. To give you all a brief summary of the events, the Petrotrin faced many challenges over the years, and some of these challenges included allegations of mismanagement, environmental concerns, and financial difficulties. In 2018, the Trinidad and Tobago government announced plans to restructure the company due to its mounting debt and operational inefficiencies. This led to the closure of its refinery operations and significant downsizing of its workforce, thus impacting thousands of employees and their communities. Now, the reason this is relevant to the stewardship theory is because it emphasizes the responsibility of managers to act as stewards of the resources entrusted to them by shareholders and other stakeholders. In the case of Petrotrin, the government, as the ultimate owner, entrusted managers with the task of efficiently managing the company's operations for the benefit of the nation. However, allegations of mismanagement and the company's financial woes suggest a failure in stewardship where managers may have prioritized short-term gains or personal interests over the long-term sustainability of the company and the well-being of its stakeholders. Now, this can be incorporated in ethics from the virtue ethics perspective. The actions of Petrotrin's management should have been guided by morals, virtues such as integrity, prudence, and accountability. However, the decision-making process and operational practices of the company may have fallen short of these virtues, thus leading to adverse consequences for employees, communities, and the environment. The closure of the refinery operations, for instance, raised questions about the ethical implications of the job losses and environmental impact, highlighting the need for a more virtuous approach to governance and corporate leadership. So the discussion that can be made is that in the case of Petrotrin, it underscores the importance of stewardship theory in corporate governance, emphasizing the responsibility of managers to act in the best interest of shareholders and stakeholders. By integrating virtue ethics into the analysis, we recognize the ethical dimensions of managerial decisions and their impact on society and the environment. This highlights the need for ethical leadership and corporate governance practices that prioritizes long-term sustainability and the well-being of all stakeholders.
On the screen now is a comparison table looking at the three corporate governance theories across multiple dimensions. The first dimension is the basic concept. Under the agency theory, there is a focus on the connection between the principal and an agent. The principal appoints an agent to carry out tasks on their behalf. The stewardship theory focuses on the idea that managers are stewards who operate in the organization's and its stakeholders' best interests. The stakeholder theory regards organizations as entities responsible not only to shareholders but to all stakeholders, including employees, customers, communities, and the environment. The primary focus of the agency theory is the alignment of interest between managers, who are agents, and shareholders, who are principals, to mitigate conflicts and maximize shareholder wealth. There is an emphasis placed on trust, empowerment, and intrinsic motivation of managers to promote their cooperation with shareholders and thus promoting long-term value creation under the stewardship theory. Under the stakeholder theory, for long-term sustainability, relationships with various stakeholders outside of only shareholders must be identified, prioritized, and managed. For performance evaluation, agency theory emphasizes financial performance metrics to monitor and incentivize agent behavior. The stewardship theory focuses on long-term organizational performance and stakeholder value creation rather than short-term financial metrics. The stakeholder theory includes both financial and non-financial metrics to evaluate overall organizational performance and stakeholder satisfaction. There are various decision-making assumptions under each theory. Under the agency theory, there's an assumption that managers act in their own interests, which may not align with shareholder goals. In the stewardship theory, managers act as stewards with intrinsic motivation, aligning their interests with shareholders. Under the stakeholder theory, the needs of each stakeholder are considered and balanced to ensure sustainable value creation. On to the role of leadership. Under the agency theory, leadership takes a supervisory and directive nature. Under the stewardship theory, there's an empowering and enabling nature. And under the stakeholder theory, there's an integrative leadership style fostering collaboration and dialogue. Each theory has its own governance mechanism. The agency theory includes monitor mechanisms such as executive compensation, performance evaluation, and board oversight to align incentives. Under the stewardship theory, there are relational mechanisms such as trust, shared values, and ethical leadership, which are prioritized to foster cooperation and goal alignment. Stakeholder theory promotes inclusive governance structures, stakeholder engagement, and corporate social responsibility initiatives to meet diverse stakeholder needs. Regarding the element of accountability, under the agency theory, there's accountability to shareholders. Under the stewardship theory, there's accountability to stakeholders and the organization. And under the stakeholder theory, there's also accountability to stakeholders and the organization. When looking at long-term orientation, under the agency theory, there's a short-term focus on performance metrics. Under the stewardship theory, there's a long-term focus on sustainable organizational success. And under the stakeholder theory, there's a long-term sustainability and social responsibility. Under the agency theory, risk aversion may lead agents to act conservatively, potentially hindering innovation and growth. Under stewardship theory, managers are encouraged to take calculated risks in pursuit of organizational objectives. And under the stakeholder theory, risk management involves identifying and managing risks associated with stakeholder relationships and broader societal impacts. Each of the theories have their criticisms and weaknesses. The agency theory may oversimplify human behavior, assuming individuals are solely driven by self-interest. There's a focus on short-term financial performance that may neglect long-term sustainability. The stewardship theory relies heavily on trust and may not adequately address situations where individuals do not act in the best interest of the organization. There's a potential for abuse by unscrupulous agents. The stakeholder theory involves great complexity in balancing competing stakeholder interests. There's difficulty in measuring and prioritizing stakeholder concerns and a potential for conflicts among stakeholder groups.
In conclusion, agency theory, stewardship theory, and stakeholder theory offer distinct perspectives on corporate governance, each with its underlying assumptions, principles, and implications. While agency theory emphasizes contractual mechanisms to align interests, stewardship theory emphasizes trust and intrinsic motivation, and stakeholder theory advocates for inclusive governance and sustainable value creation. Understanding the nuances of these theories is essential for practitioners and policymakers to design effective governance frameworks that balance the interests of various stakeholders while promoting long-term organizational success. Thank you for listening.